Just give me a minute. I want to share my screen. So today we are talking about, we are going to be talking about go-to-market strategy and marketing techniques. Just let me know where you can see my screen in a minute. Okay. Can we all see my screen? Please type in the chat if you can see my screen. Just let me know that you can. Okay. Thank you. Israel, why can't maybe it's your network, Israel. Everybody can see my screen. Alright, so like I said, today we're talking about go-to-market strategy and product launch plans. Now, let's get right into this. Is a straightforward topic. It's just like our agile conversation. So now we've been talking about product development, right? And it is the product manager who manages the product from guys, excuse me, let me check if I'm recording before we continue. All right. Okay, so like I was saying, we'll be talking about product development, right? Which is the process of developing a product from conceptualization to ideation to the design process to development, and now the product is completed, right? And then you launch. There's one more step before launch. We are going to talk about the last step next week, which is QA testing and usability testing and all of that. But let's keep that step, right? Now, your product is complete and you need to launch. What does launching the product entail? Essentially, we know already that when in the context of product management, if I'm talking about products, we are talking about a digital app, either a mobile app or a web application. In some rare cases, maybe you're working for a company like iPhone or Microsoft, then products will mean a physical product, a physical technology product. But largely in our context, we're talking about digital products, so digital apps, web apps, mobile apps, all of that. Now, your app is ready, right? Your developer, they've coded, you've done QA on products, you've greenlighted the product for launch. What does launching the product look like? Is it just you push the product to the app store and that's it, right? No, that's not it. There's a process to launching. Now, in terms of launching the product, you are no longer, so from the process of product development where you are conceptualizing, you are doing ideation, research, all of the things we've talked about, the product manager is the primary stakeholder. And just like in UI UX design, the product designer is the stakeholder, it's the primary stakeholder, and you collaborate with them, right? Same way for launch, the product marketing manager is the primary stakeholder, and then you collaborate with them to launch the product. But you are also actively involved because you know the product, right? So the marketer just helps you engage your customers and put your product out there. But ultimately, you are the subject matter expert when it comes to your product. So there are certain things that you will still do. And because of this unique, or because of this sub-skill, you'll find that sometimes your responsibilities can overlap with that of a product marketing manager just because of the nature of your role. So now, like I said, launching a product is the final phase of the product development process, and it's as crucial as all the preceding steps that you've done. And as a product manager, you work with a product marketer to develop and execute a working launch plan. Now, a working launch plan, there's something called go-to-market strategy. And you might find that a go-to-market strategy or GTM strategy is used interchangeably, right, with launch plan. Maybe if you're already working on a software development team, or you've heard some terms on social media and you might hear GTM used interchangeably with launch plan. Now, they don't mean the same thing. They are two different things. And we're going to go into the nitty-gritty of how are they different and what does it entail. Now, a product launch involves introducing either a brand new product or a revamped product to the market. So, brand new product in that your MVP is a brand new product. A feature, remember I said every feature is a mini product, right? Now, a mini product or a feature, you have a launch plan for it, right? A revamped product, let's say you already had a product on the market and you want to pivot into a new subset, or you want to cater to a new target audience, or you want to pivot into a new market, you have to develop a launch plan for it. Now, it involves strategic rollout steps to generate interest among potential customers. Essentially, it's a product launch plan is just steps to how you want to launch your product, or what are the steps that you need to cover in the process of launching your product. A successful launch gives your product an edge within the market and it rings a bell. Now, a go-to-market strategy, on the other hand, is like a roadmap. Not the roadmap that we've talked about, but it's just like a blueprint. Essentially, it's like a blueprint to get your product into the customer's hands. Now, another difference, we'll get into it, but I just want to say it now so it's clear as we go. A product launch plan is usually something that a product manager would put together, right? But a go-to-market strategy is something that a product marketing manager would put together, because it's a more broader overview of the it's a much more broader overview of the marketing plan for the product. Now, it outlines how you want to reach the ideal audience and how you want to beat the competition. So it's sort of like a mini business plan that's focused on launch, and you consider factors like pricing, how to get your product out there, and go-to-market strategy is not used for just new products. Businesses also use them for launching entirely new features. So you can see that it's more strategic. It has a much broader context than a product launch plan. Now, a go-to-market strategy is a comprehensive plan that outlines how you bring your product or service to market, considering factors like target audience, pricing, distribution channels, and competitive advantage. Whereas a product launch plan can be part of a go-to-market strategy. So a product launch plan, like I said, can be part of a product market strategy, while a product launch plan can be part of a go-to-market strategy. But a go-to-market strategy cannot be part of a product launch plan. So you see how they are different. So a go-to-market strategy is the big picture, and it covers the overall approach and goals for introducing a new or updated product. Now, someone might be saying, if a go-to-market strategy is the big picture, why then is it not the product manager's responsibility? And I'll tell you why. It's not, because it's a marketing concept, sort of, right? And in terms of, it's also very customer facing, it's very outward facing. And so in developing a go-to-market strategy, you have to really understand your customers. So you are more obsessed about the audience than you are about the product in developing a go-to-market strategy. And we already know that as a product manager, you are more obsessed about the product. Yes, you are interested in your users, you understand your users, you empathize with them, but primarily your focus is more inward facing. Even the way you understand your users is in context to your product, whereas a marketer might be more understanding of the entire market segment, your target audience. They might not even be thinking about how your users use the product, but they may be thinking about what the societal context of your users using your product entails. And so that's why the go-to-market strategy is essentially or usually the product marketing manager's responsibility. Now, that is not to say that a product manager cannot work very closely with a product marketer to bring to life a go-to-market strategy, but ultimately it's just important to know which one of the responsibilities is yours, where your responsibility sort of intersects or overlaps. So let's talk about some of the differences between a go-to-market strategy and a product launch plan. Now, in terms of the features of a go-to-market strategy, a go-to-market strategy has a bigger, in terms of focus, it's more of a big picture, big focus outlook, and it's more focused on the overall approach, whereas a product launch plan is more specific on actions and tactics that relate to launching the product, right? A go-to-market strategy is more comprehensive, while a product launch plan is focused on per product launch. So a go-to-market strategy can encompass the entire product, right? It's very comprehensive. Whereas you will most likely have a product launch plan for each launch that you are putting out as a PM. A go-to-market strategy, since we've already said it's comprehensive, it means it is long term and it considers the entire product life cycle. Whereas a product launch plan is more focused on the launch window. Again, because it is, or you do it on a per product where you are trying to launch a product, so it's on a per product basis. A go-to-market strategy contains the contents of a go-to-market strategy involve target market profile, such as the one we just talked about. So a customer persona will be in a go-to-market strategy as well. So target market profiles, marketing plans, sales and distribution strategy. So you see that it's very outward facing and not necessarily has too much to do with the product itself, and competitive analysis on the market. Whereas a product launch plan is more focused on launch dates. When are we launching the product? What sort of marketing campaigns are we going to do? Do we need to train any team member? Maybe a cross function. So not just the product team, but because you are launching, you are going to now consider other stakeholders that will cater to your customers, such as the sales, the customer success team. So do we need to train them on our product? Do we need to train them on how to manage our products? Maybe a training, maybe it might not be a training, maybe we need to just put together a one-page document, just educating them on what our product is about and how they are going to be able to manage customer issues or customer feedback. Now, in terms of goals, go-to-market strategy is more focused on reducing launch risk, achieving sustainable growth, and gaining competitive advantage. So more overview, more strategic, and more aligned with the business and sales goals. Whereas a product launch plan is just focused on creating a successful launch and generating sales and buzz relating to that particular product launch. And then in terms of benefit, go-to-market strategy is focused on increased revenue, improved brand recognition, and reduced costs. Whereas a product launch plan is focused on faster time to market. So how do we market? How do we get our products faster to the market? Because what is really good about putting together a launch plan is because you are doing it often, or as often as you put out a feature, you are most likely documenting and noting down things that are happening on a launch by launch basis. So it means that by your next launch, you have a previous launch document to go back and look at and say, this is what worked last time, this is what did not work. And even though the context might be different because you are probably launching a different feature, but there will just be some essential elements that you'll be able to replicate for your launch plan that will improve your launch for that feature. And so it helps to improve faster time to market. It helps, it also factors in brand awareness, enhanced brand awareness, and then increased sales and leads. Now, there's some in putting together your product launch checklist. In putting together your product launch plan. Just at the back of it, this is not an official, a product launch checklist is not necessarily an official document that you have to put together as a product manager, but it's just sort of a personal checklist that you need or that you'll look at when you are putting together your launch plan, right? Now, they're just essential to ensure a smooth and successful launch happens. A product launch checklist acts as a roadmap, guiding your team through every step of the process. Like I said, it's not essentially something that you have to document. It's not a requirement. It's not a prerequisite, but it's good practice for you and for your team. Because you know how a checklist is, you are ticking things off of your list. And so in just having a product launch checklist, you're able to checklist and say, okay, this is what we have done as a team. Your core product team now, this is what we have done, this is what we have not done, and you're just ticking them as you go, and you're able to even measure your progression or measure how far or how close you are to launch dates. And it gives the other team members a way to also keep them in the loop that, okay, remember, collaboration is one core skill of a product manager. And so you're also able to keep them in the loop and say, okay, this is how far we are to launch. We need to get on our Zoom. So a product launch checklist includes identifying all the tasks, like I said, assets and potential pitfalls that you need to avoid. And so in following a checklist, you just eliminate the risk of overlooking crucial steps or missing vital materials. Now, as a product manager, you're in a unique position because you intersect with multiple departments from other, or multiple stakeholders from other departments, right? You sit at the core, literally at the middle of the organization, because you are just sort of, you are intersecting with other stakeholders in a way that most departments will not. You're working with marketing, you're working with brand, you're working with business, you're working with operations, you're working with engineering, you're working with design. So you're working with you're working with finance, you're working with legal. You're at the middle of the organization. And so a lot of things can literally just slip out of your within your eye range. And so you want to have a checklist to be able to keep track of things that are happening so that you are able to avoid oversight. Now, a strong launch plan begins by looking back at your previous experience. Like I said, you develop a product launch plan for every product that you want to launch. A product can also be a feature. Right, a feature is a mini product. Now, so for every feature, for every product that you want to launch, you're going to have a product launch checklist. And you're going to have a product launch plan. And why it's important that you have a product launch plan is because, I said this earlier, you're able to analyze past launch. You're able to just reflect on how did this launch go? What did we do wrong? Were we able to launch at the time that we said? Because remember I said you're going to set a launch date. Were we able to launch at the time that we said, at the dates that we said we're going to launch? If not, what was our blocker? And how can we remove that blocker for this current launch? Those are things that you analyze. Then things like collaboration. You're able to assess collaboration within the team. Was the communication clear? Did everybody understand their roles? And did they come correct? And then did they also have understanding of what the goals and expectations for the launch? Because I've had instances where I was pursuing a launch date that my stakeholders, my core product team, didn't know that was our launch date, and it was so crazy to me because it was frustrating. I was wondering why nobody had the same level of vim that I had. I was just always trying to keep everybody on track. We're trying to. My own personal goal was, okay, we're going to launch at this certain date. And I saw that we were a couple of weeks from our launch date. And it was just like people were not having the same energy that I had. And just even collaborating and trying to check the temperature, like, why are you guys not on the same page? And they said they didn't realize that was the actual launch date. They thought it was a tentative launch date. And so it's things like that that make a product manager have a product launch plan so that there's no miscommunication between you and your stakeholders. Everybody's clear that this is our launch date and we are on the same team and we are pursuing the same goals. Now, what is the content of a product launch plan? It's a launch plan, right? Now, first of all, product. In terms of products, you are ticking your list. Now, the future defined clearly on our PRD, right? This is the content of your product launch checklist. Our features defined clearly on our PRD. If it is, then that's ticked on your list. You check your UX UI design. What does our wireframe looks like? What does our specs meet? Have we done user flow? Have our designs be complete? Has design review happened? So everything that encompasses UX UI design, you check if that is completed or if that is in progress, whatever the status is, you take it or you monitor that. Engineering. So this falls under the product itself. Under engineering, has engineering built our core features or have they started to work on it? Then under QA is quality assurance. There's something called QA testing. We'll talk about it next week. But has QA been done? Have we tested our features? Is it green light? Does everything look good? Does the product work the way the PRD? Remember, the PRD is literally your product manual, right, internally. And so when you're doing QA, you test also with your QA, with your PRD in mind. Does the product work the way the PRD said the product should work? If it is, you check that. And then this is when you now also define what success means for the product. So you meet with your stakeholders because remember, you're not working, you have business stakeholders, your CEO, your chief commercial officer, just your manager, just a couple of stakeholders that can be able to give you clarity into what the business is pursuing or what the organizational goals are. Remember, your product is supposed to also meet user needs and business goals, right? So now you've built a product that meets user needs. You need to define the metric that will ensure that your product is meeting these user needs and business goals as well. So you meet with your stakeholders. What are the things that we want to track? What is the definition of success for this product, right? A fintech, for example, success metrics might be number of transactions. And so that's a metric that you now track as a product manager on your product analytics tool. What are the number of transactions we're having in a day? You measure that against your number of users. You measure that. How about now? Can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me now? Okay, sorry for that break in transmission. All right, let's go back. Let me backtrack because I didn't realize you're not hearing me. Okay. All right. So I was talking about product metrics, and I was essentially saying that you need to define what success means for your product, right? So you've built your product in mind, with users in mind and business goals in mind, right? So now that you've built it, you need to figure out what is a metric that we'll use to track whether our product is really doing the thing that it said it will do. So you meet with your stakeholders, you document what that metric is, because once you launch, that's what you're going to be checking. Then you check your infrastructure just to ensure that your systems are able to work for your products, right? If it's a fintech product, do you need your organization to fund the product, such as float, for example, right? So these are things that you just look at the system and the operations of managing the product when it's in the hands of users. So this is something you do before your product launches, just FYI. Putting together this checklist is something you do before your product launches, when you're already approaching you can even do it at the beginning. Just look at your product and start to document what are the things that we're checking for. It helps you measure, it helps you monitor progress as well as helps you just keep a preview of launch, and you are mitigating any issues that might arise as you approach launch date. And then now, launch plan, right? What is the launch date? I said this earlier that you need to set a launch date. In case you are wondering, how do we set a launch date? We don't, your product is, in fact, you might still be at the process where your designer are just designing, or your designer is just designing the screens, right? So now, how do you know what date we can launch? Remember at the beginning when we were talking about prioritization framework, and I said that you do something called effort estimation when after you have prioritized your features. You, before anybody even gets to work, they need to tell you how much time it will take you. They need to tell you how much time it will take you. It will take them to develop the features. So, for example, your designers will tell you, oh, it will take me 4 weeks, or it will take me 6 weeks to design the screens, depending on your priority. Do you see why the priority is important? Looking at your priority, looking at the user flow you've mapped, they'll be able to tell you, okay, looking at this user flow that we've mapped now, maybe it will take me 4 weeks to design it. Your developer will get on priority. They'll read through the priority, go through the function. The functional requirements is for the developers. They'll read through your PRD and say, oh, it will take us 8 weeks to, your backend especially, it will take us 8 weeks to develop this product. Now, when you factor in the time it will take design and the time it will take developers, you already have a bit of timeline for when the product development bits will happen. Now, if you have a QA engineer, good for you. If you don't, it means you are going to be the one doing QA testing. You now might say, okay, it will take me 2 weeks or 3 weeks to do QA testing. By the time you account for engineering, account for design, account for QA testing, you have a sense of how much time is needed for the product to be able to be ready for launch. So if you factor in all of these things and you say it will take us 2 months, it means your launch plan will be, maybe you give a 1 week buffer. Right, so your launch plan might now be 9 weeks. So 9 weeks from the day that they start to get to work will be when you now say, oh, this is our launch date. That's your launch date, right? And so from the moment you set your launch date, you should have even put together this checklist, because what that means is you are now trying to align with all the stakeholders that will be needed for your product to launch. And so if you're not able to identify and align with all your stakeholders very early on, it means that it will impact your launch plan. Let me give you an instance. Let's say you are launching a product that would have needed legal and compliance inputs. And because you did not realize that, because what putting together this checklist does for you is that it makes you think about all the working parts of the product development process. Now, is Israel the only one experiencing this voice breaking, or is it everybody? Anybody else? Can anybody else hear me properly, or is it just Israel? All right, thank you. Israel, please, it's probably your network. All right, let's get back to it. So, as I was saying, it's important to set your launch date. It's important to set this checklist very early on, because as soon as you've gotten your timeline estimations from all your stakeholders, your designer, your developer, your QA engineer, or if it's you who's the QA engineer, you set your launch date. It's important to just start putting together your checklist, because what this does is it helps you just have a clear overview of who your stakeholders are for this product and how you can start to align with all of them very early, so it doesn't impact your launch date. Because one thing that your business stakeholders, which are your managerial stakeholders, your CEO, your manager, they'll ask you when you want to launch your product, right? And if you give them a launch date, they will mark it in their calendar and they'll be pursuing you. So if you don't launch as at when you said you will launch, they're going to ask you why. So it's important that as soon as you set a launch date, it's race to finish line. You are ensuring that even the team is aware that this is our launch. It's not something for just your personal corner. You put it out there that the team anyway, internally, you put it to your team that this is our speculated launch date, and this is what we want to do. And so your marketer will also be aligned so that they can get together their launch materials. Now, pricing and packaging is also something you start to define very early on, right? You approve if your product is a freemium product or if your product is a premium product, whatever type of revenue model. If your product is free, that's good for you. If your product has going to have pricing, you need to now start aligning with the finance and saying, okay, how much are we going to price this product? Because that also factors into how the marketing team will put together their launch material. So you see how everything is just sort of intersecting, and if you miss one, it's very easy to miss the entire or miss something that would delay your product from launching. On that launch plan, you also think of positioning, but this is more of marketing. So positioning is not really a product management, but this is something that putting this checklist together, it's nice to just understand the positioning, but it's not a prerequisite as a product manager. And then the communication plan, how will the launch be? This is also a marketing thing, right? Marketing content, social media, media relations, these are all marketing. These are core marketing concepts, so you don't have to worry about it, but it's something to, if you find that you don't have a product marketer, then this is something that you know, because I have heard of instances where a product manager is unfortunately doubling as a product marketing manager. So all the company has is a social media manager to handle, because the social media manager is different from a product marketing manager. And so the company might just have a social media manager to handle outward-facing communication channels, and they don't have a product marketing manager to handle these things. And so you might find that in such scenarios, you are now doing that job. So that's why this content has all of this. You now think about, okay, what's our market positioning? What's the communication plan? Marketing content? How do you want the launch to be announced? How do we want to phrase our copy, or what's the tone of our launch announcement? All of these things are things that you will not think about. And then there's also sales and support. Like I said, you're going to have sales managing your users. So you want to sort of document FAQs for them, or troubleshooting guides, or user guides. What are the things that they will need? If you have a product marketer will do this. But if you don't have a product marketer, then the buck falls on you to do it. Sales training, that's it, training the sales guys and just having a sync with them, letting them know so that they can sell the product. They can't sell a product they don't know, and you are the subject matter expert, so you will sell these products. And then training customer success, and then any partners if you have. Then feedback, review, conduct a team review. Like I said, you have launched previous launches. You've done previous launches before. So at the end of every launch plan, when the product is out, you are now looking at it that, okay, did we launch at the dates that we said we'll launch? If we did, that's great. What are the things that we did right? If we did not, what are the things that we did wrong, right? You document all of this. Documentation is very important as a product manager, because you need to learn. You learn on the job in a lot of ways. Most of these things I'm saying are things that I learned on the job. So there are some things that you might not even find the relevance for until you start getting to the field and you learn on the job. And so as you're learning, you're documenting, you're improving your working processes. Even as a product manager, you're improving your own personal working processes, and you monitor the metrics. So remember, initially you had set your success metrics. So now you monitor your success metrics post-launch. The metrics that you've set for yourself, for your user, for the business, you monitor them, right? So the use of this checklist just helps the product manager accomplish more and reduce mistakes during launch. So I want to just summarize that this is the checklist that you put together. You put together when you are about to, once you have gotten your efforts or your timeline from your users, right? Once you've gotten your timeline from your team, your core product team, you put together a checklist personally that you are checking as you are going to measure progress, to measure progression of effort on the team, and to just see that before you are working, because like I said, once you set your product launch dates, your work is raced to the finish line, right? It's raced to the finish line. So as you are going, once you set that date, you are now working towards it. So while all your stakeholders are doing their job, you want to ensure that you, who is responsible primarily for the launch, you have covered all the bases that you need to cover, right? And so in doing so, you are just able to, in putting together a checklist, you're able to make sure that nothing escapes from nothing goes missed or nothing goes unnoticed that should impact your launch. And remember that you are communicating your product launch dates to your core team and to your stakeholders so that everybody is aware, and you're working with a common goal in mind, so that nobody's saying, we didn't know you wanted to launch by this time. It's not a secret. You're letting everybody know that we're launched. So while the checklist can be your personal, it can be your own personal documentation where you're checking activities off as you go under all of these headings, under products, under system, under launch plan, and under sales and support. Things like the core launch plan, which is your set date, pricing. So it can be it should be public. Your launch date should be public so that everybody is pursuing the same goal as you are pursuing. Now, who is a product manager and a product marketing manager? I've touched on this when the class started, but just to go a little bit more specific into it, a product marketing manager wears many hats with a strong emphasis on marketing initiatives. So that they are more outward facing, they are more customer facing, right? Whereas a PM is more on the product and how the product impacts the users. And so to achieve the goals, PMMs or product marketing managers will collaborate extensively with various marketing specialists such as digital marketing, social media marketing. So it's commonplace to find that a product marketing manager is also managing the social media presence of the product or of the brand. They are also managing the digital marketing. They can be running ads, anything you can think of in terms of marketing. A product marketing manager will do it while also managing the go-to-market strategy. If there's going to be a pivot, the product marketing manager is going to put together a GTM strategy for such a pivot and all of that. But if there is no product marketing manager, a social media manager cannot do it because they don't have. Product marketers are specialists in terms of marketing your product. That is product marketing manager. They are specialists, right, when it comes to marketing your product. But a social media manager is just a social media manager that is managing your social media presence. And so if you find that you are in a place where you don't have a product marketing manager, it's very unfortunate because it just means that there's more work on your table. You're not going to have to do the extra work that a product marketing manager should have done. A product manager, on the other hand, focuses more on product strategy, and they set the strategy and roadmap for the product, and they work with cross-functional teams to define and execute product success. So a product marketing manager is a member of the marketing team, whereas a product manager is a product manager and you are at the intersection of the organization essentially. Like I said, in some companies, especially as startups, the product manager can take up the role of a product marketing manager, but it can be a lot. So it can be really a lot. But if you find that you are doing both roles, then everything that pertains to a GTM strategy and a launch plan will be your responsibility. But if you are just doing the job of a product manager, you will most likely just focus on putting together a launch plan for your product as they launch. And so from the definitions, you can tell that a product manager guides the product development internally, while a product marketing manager handles the external communication about the product. Now, what are the differences between a PM and a PMM? Now, a product manager's focus is more focused on guiding internal product development. So more focus on the product, more focus on the users, more focus on guiding the team to deliver the product or deliver the product goal. Whereas a product marketing manager is more external and they focus more on communicating the product value to external facing stakeholders such as your customers, your partners, your third party users if you have, depending on what kind of product you're using, but they are more focused on managing the and communicating the product value to external facing teams. Another differences in terms of responsibilities and roles. A product manager will be tasked with defining the product vision and roadmap, overseeing design and development, managing the product backlog, and collaborating with engineers and designers, among others. We already know the roles and responsibilities of a product manager. But a product marketing manager will be more tasked or more focused with developing a go-to-market strategy, creating the product messaging and positioning, managing launch campaign and content, and analyzing customer feedback. So even though yes, you put together a launch plan, once your product, you've greenlight your product and you've pushed it to the app store, if it's not user issues, you're not essentially communicating anything about the product. This is a marketer that is going to be sending emails, sending whatever form of outward facing communication. It's the product marketing manager that is going to be responsible for that. So even if you want to conduct user research and you want to do it via email or you want to talk to your users, it's your product marketing manager who you will collaborate with to say, hey, I want to send a survey form to our users to get their feedback. And then you tell them what you want them to do and they put it out for you because they have tools that they use to manage all of these mediums, and we'll get into their tools. And then in terms of pre-launch, it's the product manager who conducts market research. Product manager also interprets market research. So this is a place where both responsibilities intersect, define product requirements, and prioritizes features, among other responsibilities that has to do with pre-launch. Whereas a product marketing manager will interpret market research, influence product features and UX, and assist with naming and packaging as well as pricing. Post-launch, a product manager will monitor product performance. Same as a marketing manager anyway. They will also, so they have their own marketing metrics. Whereas you have your success metrics in terms of the product. So your metrics will be different, but you are both monitoring the product performance. In terms of skills, a product manager needs to have a bit of technical understanding because you are working with technical teams, you are working with devs. You can learn on the job in terms of technical understanding. You can learn on the job. You don't have to understand all the jargon or the tech jargons that they use in terms of building technical components of your product. You also need to have good project management skills, product development expertise, and be an analytical thinker because you're going to be solving problems. Like you are putting out fires as a product manager. You are just essentially a fireman in a lot of ways. Especially once you are advancing towards your launch date, it can be a bit hectic. A product marketing manager is more focused on communication and storytelling, marketing and branding, content creation, and customer focus. Now, what the tools that a product manager would use is different from the tools that a product marketing manager would use. Now, a product manager would use project management tools such as ClickUp, Trello, Jira. We know all of this already. Design and prototyping tools such as Figma or FigJam, product analytics tools such as Mixpanel, Amplitude, Metabase, and QA tools such as app distribution. Whereas a product marketing manager might not even have any reason to interact with all your tools. Okay, they might interact with Figma. Maybe they want to give you UX copy. UX copy is essentially the words that go on the screen of Figma. So you know when you open an app and you see on the text, it might tell you click this button or send us an email. Things like that are called UX copy, and it is the product marketing manager who would give feedback or a UX writer, but it falls under a product marketing manager's responsibilities, right? So that's the only reason why they will get on Figma. But essentially, their tools are more focused on how they can interact with the users, more customer facing. So market research tools, content creation and content management tools, and marketing automation tools to send emails to your users. And so these are just the differences between a marketing manager and a product marketing manager and a PMM, essentially. We've come to the end of today's class. I hope it was clear. I can do a recap if we need to do a recap, but I want to see if that was fast. Okay, Philly, you can ask your question. Philly Ogu. Philly Ogu, please unmute your mic. Okay? Philly is not ready. Livingstone. Livingstone, unmute your
Okay.
mic. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So I have like two questions.
Okay.
The number one question is you mentioned something about the launch date. And I
About
remembered when we were the launch date,
all right.
when we were developing the roadmap, we had something similar like that. We were giving example, maybe if you want to involve the legal,
Yes,
so like
exactly.
yeah, something like that. So my question is that do we include the launch date in the roadmap? Because in today's class, you made it clear that we are to discuss the launch date with the team members, and we are to know the exact time we are launching. How about the roadmap? Is it that we just give the range of our launching at the roadmap or the exact date of the launching?
Okay, so you don't. The reason why you shouldn't. So okay, it depends on your roadmap because your roadmap might be for a quarter, and a quarter is 3 months, right? Whereas your roadmap might be for 6 months, and in that 6 months, maybe you're launching two features. You cannot now date your roadmap for just one feature when you have two features to be launched in 6 month span and put on your roadmap. So what you can do, what is good practice is because the roadmap is visible to all stakeholders, you should put your launch dates on your roadmap. But what you will do is you write it that against the feature. So if you are launching a cards feature, cards launch, you now put that as you now put the date as your launch date. Is that clear?
Not really, not really. Like I want to be more clear about it.
Okay.
Because I can, let's say I put a specific date, my launch date at the roadmap, and prior to that time there are circumstances that are warranted that maybe I'm unable to do it. Maybe we don't have competent staff to handle some tasks or insufficient funds. So how do we handle that particular issue? Because what I'm thinking before is maybe we should not have a particular launch date. Maybe it's after when we've done the features, building and all of those things that we now give a particular date. Okay, now that we've done, this is the particular
Mm.
date we want to launch our product.
Mm. So what's the question?
Like
How do
what
you
when I'm saying
your date
yes, how
for?
do we balance that area? Yeah.
Okay, you go and change the roadmap, and then when you change the date size on your roadmap, and you are informing your stakeholders one month. So remember that you're most likely meeting with your your core product team. You're meeting with them on a weekly basis, right? Most tech startups have either daily stand-ups or they have weekly stand-ups. So what that means is you're interfacing with your core product team on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. And so if things change, you're also informing them that things have changed and this is your new date. And so since you already have your checklist, while you're putting it on your roadmap, that the day while you are changing the date on your roadmap and you are telling your core product team, you are also looking at your checklist and seeing which other team that might not be a part of my core product team, but I need to now go and let them know on a one-on-one basis that date has changed though, so let's work with this new date. Is that clearer?
Yes. So I have a question. So
Okay.
the difference between this PMM,
Mm.
this is the PMM now. Yes, the
Yeah.
PMM and the project manager. Now, look at the PMM. Is it that the PMM is the head of market department that will now be giving account to the product manager. Let's say we are building a particular product, and normally I think it's not really ideal for the product manager to be the one doing the work of a PMM.
Wait, please say it again. Hello? Let me see. I can't hear you anymore. Okay. Livingston, maybe it's your internet. I can't hear you. Drop off and then come back to ask your question. Let's take someone else while you are trying to fix your internet. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
So what I'm asking is, this PMM and PM of a thing. I've
Mm-hmm.
lost my thoughts. So I'm saying that, let's say we are building a particular product,
Mm,
and the work of this product manager is just to oversee everything. Now, with the
mm,
PMM have like sub team members under him or her that they will now give, because the link you shared, when I read through it, I saw that the PMM we actually need to have another roadmap entirely
oh,
different
yes,
from
they
the
do have their,
roadmap the product manager is having.
yes,
So
they do.
so it means that the PMM will now like submit what is being done to the product manager to oversee, because it won't really be necessary for the product manager to be just to know everything that's going on, like doing the
Yes,
marketing strategy and all of those things.
yes. So not necessarily submit because again, you're not. You remember how I said you have to learn to lead with influence. So you're leading the team, but you're not really. They're not really. They're not. You cannot be exerting influence, direct influence over them, right? So yes, you must have a view of their roadmap. They will share their roadmap with you. And good practice, which is something I do, is I link their roadmap on my own roadmap. So I can just write this product marketing roadmap and just link it, right? So that's also that's something that is good practice. So yes, they will share their roadmap with you, so you can see how their efforts are going to impact your future. Because they too, remember, they are more customer facing. So you might know that there is a launch happening, and you think that everybody is aligned, but you will see that you will not find a product launch for that feature that is coming up on their roadmap. And so if you don't see a roadmap, you won't know, and you will not be able to clear them that this should be on your roadmap because we're trying to launch it so time, and then they will not go back and readjust things. So yes, you should have a view of their roadmap, but they have their own roadmap because they are under marketing. And it's not that a product marketing manager is the head of a marketing department. They're just a it's just the way you have a social media manager that is part of the marketing team. That's also how a product marketing manager is part of the marketing team.
Thank you,
Livingston, does
ma'am.
that
I
answer
get
your
that.
question? All
Yes,
right.
I'm fair. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Falashade. Falashade Mercy. Falashade, please unmute your mic.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
going through the notes again. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Yeah, so my question is the product checklist. Is it that there
Mm-hmm.
is a app for us to do the product checklist, like the way we did the PRD on our Notion?
So,
Is it that there
you can
is a
you can do it, but it's not like, remember I said it's more for personal. You can do it on Notion. So a Notion is, you see how you can create multiple documents on Notion. If you are, because you're on the free plan, but if you're on a team plan, which is like a paid plan for organizations, you'll be able to house, it will be like a document house for all the document activities. So you can create that plan and put it on Notion.
okay? So that means the product checklist can be on Notion and it can appear to every other person on the team.
Yes, yes, yes. If that's what you prefer, you can do that.
Oh, okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
Right. Yeah. Chinasa. Chinasa Chukwemeka. No, sir. I'm Good
Good evening, ma.
Hello, good evening.
Okay. My question is this: what if after creating the launch plan, after
Mm.
fixed date for it, but some due to some circumstances and it was not able to be achieved, what will be
Mm.
the outcome? Like I'm just checking it on my brain now.
You changed the date. I answered this question. This is something similar to what Livingstone has. You changed it. If your date is entirely possible that things happen, right? Your developer might fall sick. They will not take longer than what they said they will take. Things happen all the time that can shift your launch date. What's important is if your launch date shifts, every stakeholder involved is also informed that your launch date has shifted. So you go on your roadmap and you make a change that your launch date has changed. You let your core product team know that our launch date has changed. You go and align. This is why, as I answered Livingstone, this is why a checklist is great because just having a checklist, you're able to know all the stakeholders that are relevant to your launch. And so you go and have one-on-ones with them and let them know that your launch date has changed, though, and this is what you are working towards. And you just drop random check-ins, to just make sure that okay, they still remember that this is your launch date. So that's just how you manage such a situation.
Okay. Thank you, ma.
Yeah. Najib, Najib Ashiru.
Okay, good afternoon, ma. Thank you
Good
for your
afternoon.
class.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Ma, it's regarding my assessments, please, ma. The assessment you said I should publish. I published back, and up to now I didn't see my grade. The one for roadmap and bad luck.
Okay, I'll
Back.
check that.
Okay, ma. I message you through DM. No reply.
All right.
Thank you, ma.
Yeah. Godwin, Godwin Sunday Elijah.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, now I want to ask, you are building, okay, a software was built already. During this time of development, they didn't have a product manager, and you are just coming in to the team.
Hmm.
How do you handle that, man? That's my first question. Maybe after this, I'll ask the second.
Okay, so you work backwards. That's how you manage it. Where it depends on where you met them while they're building. So did you meet them after design? Did you meet them during development? And then you work backwards to see all the steps that you have missed and try to account for documentation, right? So now you might not be able to account for PRD because maybe they've already started development and you met them after they push out one. Although I'm wondering how they would have launched features without a PRD. That would be difficult. But wherever you meet them, you work backwards, try to cover the steps you've missed, and then now try to account for the steps ahead of you.
All right, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Again, there's hello.
I can hear you. You said you have two questions. I'm waiting for the second one.
Yes, man. Oh my God, I wish I asked it. Okay, now
Okay.
let's say you want to track the progress of your work with Jira. I don't really understand that Jira tool, like
You
tracking
can
the
you can
progress of your work.
just go and watch YouTube videos on how to use Jira, and like I said, some of these things you learn while using the tools. You see how a lot of you had issues with Figma, but when you start to do it, you find that it's easy. So you learn while using the tools. You can play around with Figma, open an account, play around with it, and that's not something I can teach you. It's something you have to learn by yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you, man.
Okay. Christian, your hands have been up. Christian 1J, I think.
Yes, good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Thank you for the teaching and the training. But I just want to raise a concern, okay? And I would like the team, the organizers to consider this. It's concerning the assignments.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way the submission date can be extended to Friday? And the reason is, a lot of us, Mondays are usually very busy. So before we post the workload at work and all that, and towards Thursday, Friday is when it's usually convenient for us to be able to do something, because by then, work is rounding up and all. So I'm just considering and I'm pleading. I know some people here might have that concern, and that's what I'm speaking of. Some of us might have that concern and consideration. So please, if it can be extended to on Friday, I will really appreciate it. Since the marking comes up the next week, the marking and the score is not the issue. You can give enough time for the marking and all, but just the submission date, just because of the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is usually hectic for us, man. Please.
So you already mentioned the marking. The only Friday extension is fine. The only thing is you will have to now, everybody now has to manage their expectation in terms of when they should be expecting their grades, because by the time I finish grading everybody, I don't grade just one class. I have 8 classes to grade. By the time I finish grading everybody's class, my DMs are full with, I haven't gotten my grade. I haven't seen my grade. Even on the general group, people are already messaging. They don't wait, right? So if we want an extension, then we are going to also have to manage our expectations that the grades will come later than we usually anticipate. If everybody's on the same page with that, then we can extend it.
Okay, ma. For me, the grading has been consistent. The grading has been, so I don't even look up to. I don't always check for grading, because I know it's consistent. It's not skipped anyone. So for me, I'm okay with it. I don't know if there are other persons here that have such concern.
Everybody can vote. The people who are in favor, please let me know in the chat. The people who are against, let me know. I will see who the winner is and we'll go with that. But Christian, I'll consider your complaint. Yeah, Joshua, please do a poll so we can vote.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Joshua, please do a poll so we can vote on what whether we want an extension to Friday or not. Israel, you can go.
Okay. Thank you, ma, for the comprehensive lecture. From the lecture, I got to understand that visiting previous launch plan is essential to avert any PT4 and then to identify any blocker on the way for the new product to launch. So I want to know, what is the fate of a new product manager that actually has no previous launch plan? How will he succeed, like, without visiting any previous launch plan? How will he identify blockers and all other things that previous launch plan actually helps?
I don't understand. Why don't you have a launch?
Like a new product now, a new product manager in startup company now. Let me just say that they have not launched a new product before. Like this is their first product. So it's quite essential to visit. I didn't bring, it's an old company that have launched series of products. It's quite, and then you have managed your product too. It's quite essential to visit back on your previous launch and consider some other things that you did well and then you didn't put well, and things that blocks in your previous launch, and then the things that you need to improve and all that. So for a new product, a new startup company to say that has no pre-existing launch plan to revisit in order to checkmate and then streamline the present process. So what will be their own fate now? What will be the fate of such product manager and that company? How will they succeed better?
There's always a first time for everything. Even when you're launching your MVP, do you have user feedback? No, you've done user research, but you don't have user feedback. So there's always a first time for everything. You put your products out there, you do the best that you can, and then you learn from your first experience. So for the first experience, there's nothing to fall back on essentially, aside you do research, you see how maybe other similar products may have conducted their own launches, right? You can learn from other people's experience, but there's a person for everything, and you can't know everything until you start. So there's no way around this particular one. It's your first time.
Okay, sir. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Augusta, your hands were raised, or has your question been answered? Okay. Augusta, you can unmute your microphone.
Okay, hello, ma.
Hello, good
Good
evening.
evening, everyone. My question is on the PRD. Okay.
Mm.
When you want to, like when writing a PRD, you write your features like login, then you go ahead and explain, write your case scenarios like the user is
Yes.
expected to do this, the user is expected to do that. Now, imagine, or let's say you forget to add something vital to that case, to that scenario now. Is there someone to inform you, okay, oh, this is missing, or if you don't write it, then that one is gone, and maybe later on we now find out that it's a mistake on your own part? I don't know if you got my question.
Yeah, I do. I get your question. First of all, you're working with so case scenarios are for your UX, your product designer, right? If you missed something, your product designer will account for it sometimes. Now, if they don't account for it, you're going to review the designs they've given you. If you review and you still don't flag what you missed, when the developer is developing and they have sense, which they should, they will flag that, oh, you didn't account for this step, right? If you see that step is not accounted for, or if nobody flags it, by QA it will be flagged. So what I'm just trying to say is that at some step, if it is really something that should be catered for, even if you miss it during design, you might flag it at a later step. Now, what that just means is these are the kind of things that impact your product launch date. Because by the time you miss something and it has gotten to QA, it means that you are now going to go back to your designer to say, hey, we missed one case, so, and we missed one. You're not going to say, we missed one step, and we need to account for it. We need design. We need a screen for it. Now, while your designer is designing it, you're not going to tell your developer that, hey, we have one more screen, please. You need to write a line of code for it. They might tell you to take 2 days, right? Now, that 2 days, your initial launch date now accounts for it. It means you now have to go and account for it in your launch date. That's something that will not shift your launch date. So it's entirely possible that you miss something and you're able to cater for it, but in catering for it, it just means that you are now going to shift your launch date, and as you're shifting your launch date, you now have to inform all the stakeholders that your launch date has changed. Does that answer your question? Augusta?
So does that make you an incompetent product manager?
No, it doesn't make you incompetent because it happens.
Yes, I said yes, ma.
No, it doesn't make you incompetent necessarily. It happens to the best of us.
Okay, ma.
Yeah.
Okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
Yeah. Achigo Prince will.
Hello?
Yeah, hello, I can hear you.
Okay, my question is on the responsibilities of a product manager from the market research, writing a PROD, a backlog, roadmap, everything. Now my question is it every organization that has just one product manager, or there are a team of product managers? Because from the look of the responsibilities, I think from my end, I feel that if only one product manager is working on everything, there will be a lot of distraction and might actually slow the development process.
So it depends on how many products your company has. Now, usually there is one product manager can manage a product, right? It's just it can be hard because the more products that you're launching, it means your responsibilities are increasing. It's a bit easier when you're launching your MVP, but after your MVP, you're building on your features, you're monitoring several different metrics, you're probably in the middle of working on a launch for more features. It can be a lot. You're juggling a lot of things. What can happen is you have a manager, or as you grow, you can have more product managers join you, right? So first of all, yes, one product manager, it is general practice that one product manager manages a product. However, depending on your workload and how much you're able to communicate that this workload is too much for me, you can have someone join your team or multiple product managers join your team. So it just really depends on the organization, how it's structured, and all of those things just impacts whether you have more product managers work on a product with you. But just overall, it's usually general practice that one product manager manages a product. But at big startups like Google or Microsoft, those products, they have too many users, too many products. So they have one product, they can have a product manager managing a feature as opposed to a product. So maybe what's one feature on Google, for example? Maybe Google Form now can be managed by just one single product manager. Gmail can be another product manager's responsibility, sort of like that. But for apps and where we are in Nigeria or in Africa, from what I know, one product manager manages a product, and then depending on how many users you are, how many features, you can now have maybe multiple product managers attached to a product. Prince, is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Gloria, you can unmute your mic.
Good evening. Thank you for the class. My question was supposed to be like an addition to Augusta's question. I am coming from the aspect of startups. It now goes on to show that the integrity of people employed in a startup is very key to the success of a product and its launching. So
Yes.
how would like maybe the owner of the product, how is the owner supposed to source for people that have the integrity, especially to make the job of the product manager easier? Because if the integrity of the people is questionable, or the quality of their work style or everything is questionable, then the product manager is going to suffer. So
Yes.
how does the source of the people go to enable that, okay, life is made easier for the product manager?
Unfortunately, that's a little bit outside of your scope. Unfortunately, because the chances that there's already a team before you join is very high, right? But it also depends on what the company culture is. If the company culture is a healthy one, if the company, so what does the company values? And that's why it's important when you're trying to join a startup, you understand what they value, what their working style is.
Okay.
Those are the things that influence how they hire and what they look out for when they hire. So if their hiring process is already, because you might think, okay, Shebi is just my PMM, my dev, my designer that I have to look out for. But remember that you're also going to be working with other cross-functional stakeholders. So if they hire a legal guy that has a very terrible character, it will impact you and your work too. So it boils down to what the organization's core values, their missions, what they value is, and those are the things that influence how the hires operate and do their job.
Okay, thank you so much.
If unfortunately you find yourself in a situation where you are managing, my experience, devs are the hardest to manage. Personally, I know some people say designers, but bro, devs are the hardest in my opinion. And so if you find if you find yourself managing a difficult developer, or you just find that the product team is having issues, you need to escalate it to the HR, or escalate it to your
Okay.
manager. Escalate to your manager first. If your manager, if it is beyond your manager will escalate to HR. But why it's important to escalate is because if you get to a point where you see that their performance is impacting your launch date, or it's
Mm-hmm.
impacting the product outcome, your product deliverables, you're going to be held responsible. But by
Yeah.
the time you calculate, you're able to now say, this is why we're having these issues. And I told HR, or I told my manager, and nothing has been done. So it's
Okay.
sort of plausible deniability, but it's also sort of accountability where the business is not able to push the responsibility back to you because you had initially said this is a problem that I am encountering and it was not resolved.
Okay. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. Isaiah Ekaidem.
Okay, good afternoon, ma. Sorry,
Yes.
my answer has been answered. I wanted to, my question has been answered, sorry.
All right. Someone else had their hands raised. I didn't take note of your name. So is that all the questions we have for today? We can call it a day if that's it. Regarding this assignment extension, it's actually not something that you guys need to debate over. We're just going to do a poll and see how you guys react. And by the time the assignment goes up tomorrow, you know what we're going with. So, okay, Israel, I hope your question is not the assignment. I hope you have a question pertaining to
No,
the
no,
class.
no, 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 no. It's not a question. It's just a little shipping. Anyway, I noticed that a whole lot of persons say are talking about this issue of fleeting date in respect of the designers, the developers, like they couldn't meet up, or they actually say that we are supposed to do this thing on so day, but now we are not doing it on this so day again. We are going to take like 2 weeks instead of 1 week. So it's going to affect the launch date. So on that note, you are to go and adjust your launch date in order to match their own suit. So I think the problem is that before you actually fix your launch date, you didn't actually visit them first
That's
to
not the
actually
problem.
have a
No,
eh?
that's not the problem. That's not the problem. You get things happen all the time during product development. I've had a situation where 1 week to launch, my developer got robbed in his house. Actually, not even 1 week to launch. Launch week, like Monday. We're launching on Thursday. By Monday, my developer got robbed. Robbers broke into his house, and his phone, his laptop, everything got taken away. Now, that means that he cannot do what I need him to do in terms of us preparing for launch. We now have to wait for him to get a new laptop, him to now get settled again because he was also emotionally destabilized. He had to go to the hospital. You cannot tell somebody that is in the hospital to come and be writing code for you. Yeah, that's insensitive. So we have to now wait for at least another week for him to be balanced before we could now work towards our launch. So things happen all the time. So many
It's true.
events
It's true.
happen.
Yeah, I could really foresee unforeseen circumstances while trying to say this. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's not
it's
that
all right.
he gets a date. It just happens.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, it's true. It's okay.
Okay, Elvis.
Okay. Hello? Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Good evening, tutor.
Yeah.
My question takes us back a bit to the class. I'm
Okay.
still not finding it easy to separate between the plan and the go-to-market strategy.
Okay. So
Mm.
I'm going to give you a bit of assignment. I go to Google Classroom. I linked a resource that explains a go-to-market strategy and a product launch plan. When you read that, you'll be clear. Because I focus on the the product launch plan, and so I can understand why you might need a bit of clarity. But when you read that, you'll be clear on this question.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll take two more, and we'll call it a day. Abdul Majid Bashir. Abdul Majid, unmute your mic and ask a question, please. Okay, already. Livingston. Livingston, hope your question is not regarding assignments.
It's not regarding assignments. Okay, so I have kind of two questions in one. It's based on the PMM and PMM thing.
Okay.
Now, I want to specifically know a skill that a product manager is to have. This is because number one, the resource you shared, I
A
read
skill
through it and I saw.
a
Can
skill
you hear
in
me?
relationship. When you say a skill that a product manager should have, in relative to what?
Maybe um in relating to, let me just explain first, you understand? I don't know how I will put it.
Okay.
For instance, according to the thing, they were saying that there are times that the product manager will stand in for the PMM, maybe in trying to convince people over a particular product. That they said that a product manager might not know how to speak or face
Yeah.
audience. So is speaking like facing audience like that is part of the qualification of a PMM. I mean, a part of the qualification of a product manager, and is it what a PMM is supposed to have like that? So that's basically my question.
Both of you are supposed to be able to talk to an audience. You need to have good customer facing, not necessarily customer, but again, you've drawn it when you defined your PRD. Will you not tell your developers what you want them to do? Is it silent communication? You tell your core team now what you want them to build. They're going to have issues. They'll come to you. So what I'm just trying to say is that as a product manager, just by virtue of your job, you are interacting with people on a daily, and that means that you are already just out. You're a bit of facing, right? You are interacting with people, and you're talking about the product, you're talking about the features regularly. So yeah, people facing. And so what that comment is just essentially saying is, remember I said the product manager is a subject matter expert when it comes to your product. So there are some things that your product marketer might not be able to explain, that it is you who will be able to explain it properly, and then you step in that sort of scenario.
And the launching of the product, what really does it entail? Is it that everything must just be online? I'm talking about like, is it possible at the launching of a particular product, you stand at the front of many people? Because actually, there are many
Okay.
people that they have a kind of a stage fright that they can't address large audience. That's what I'm trying to say.
It depends on the company. It depends on the company. It depends on the marketing team. It depends on the product. If the product is a high stake product, the launch plan might involve doing media round where you now have to physically stand in front of people. If it's not maybe a high stake product, if it's an MVP, it might not be where you need to. They want to hear from the product manager. As my company, we've had instances where the product, there's a Twitter space on our official Twitter channel, and the product manager is talking about the product. So you see how that's very customer facing. So it depends on the organization, it depends on the nature of the product, it depends on the feature.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, I guess this is our last question for today. Tomorrow we'll talk more about marketing techniques and how to price your product. For those, there are different pricing models for a product, which is tied to revenue generation and marketing technique essentially. we'll talk about that tomorrow. For now, good night and see you guys tomorrow by 5 p.m.